Casey Joyner, ESPN.com, NFL Insider. He joins us with the matchups for a couple of games I want to get into, Casey. We'll obviously do this Eagles-Patriots matchup here, but I want to look at the NFC East games as well because all of them very interesting and important this week. Casey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's always a pleasure, man. It's week 13 of the NFL, man. It's flying by, and I know teams, they get these identities of who they are. Right now, I think the identity of Philadelphia would be that they're not a very good football team. Is that a fair identity?
Yeah, it's a fair identity. They've not figured out. But then again, when you have so much personnel turnover coming into the season and into the season, and you can't seem to get your play calling like you want it to be. It's just it seems like there's a lack of decisiveness in among the team itself. So the team's decisive, the players are going to, and the team is not decisive. The players aren't going to be decisive, and it's going to lead to what you've got right now.
What has been the most disappointing thing about this 4-7 outfit so far?
The fact that it could be 7-4 has to be what it is, because you look, they should have won the Dolphins game. There were a couple other games that, they could have won. And what's most frustrating from a tape perspective, though, is that you look at a Chip Kelly team and you expect a certain type, expect that pace football, and I just don't think we've ever seen 4 quarters of that pace football out of this team this year. So, when you come into the season saying this is the type of football we're going to play and you never can put 4 quarters of that football up, that's got to be frustrating.
I asked this question earlier in the show. We talked about it. Can they not play Chip Kelly's offense because they don't have the talent to, or can they not play this style of offense anymore because teams won't let you, that they figured you out?
Well, over the last couple of years, teams have said we're going to stop the run. We're going to put an extra person in the box. We're going to put an extra defender in the box and make sure that we put the odds as much in our favor as we can at stopping Philadelphia. And Philadelphia just had the players to beat them deep before, and they've done it on occasion this year. But I just don't think that Philadelphia has the type of people that can make a defense pay if you decide to overcommit to the running game. I think that's a big part of it. And, there's other elements, too. The offensive line hasn't blocked well, but I just think overall it's been that, Philadelphia, if this was year 1 for the Kelly system, we'd probably be having a different discussion than we were now that it's year 3 in the Kelly system and he has personnel control.
Yeah, and obviously the most important guy is that quarterback. We talked about this earlier, Casey, before you jumped on. You take Rodgers off Green Bay, that team probably not very good. Chip Kelly alluded to it today. He said, how do they get by with all the injuries? He said, well, Brady's still playing, right? You take Brady off that team, they're probably not very good. That quarterback position is so important. Chip hasn't been able to get the guy. In your opinion, Bradford does not have a contract next year. Is he worthy of bringing back for a second year? Are these last 5 games his tryout? Have they made that decision? Have you seen enough to suggest that he is or is not the right guy for this team?
I don't have a problem with him being the starter. I just want a better backup. I want a guy who, if I think that they need a game off, if Bradford needs a game off, that I can put a backup in there. You look at through NFL history, you can find many cases where a team had a starter who was really good but kind of brittle. As long as you have a really good backup behind him and you can say, okay, look, if you only play, say 10 out of 14 or 12 out of 16 games, depending on the seasons you're looking at in the past, that'll be good enough. So I think that's what the Eagles need to concentrate on. Bradford's good enough to be your starter. He just might not be durable enough to play 16. So go out and find a really good backup quarterback and give yourself, say, the best backup quarterback in the league, and you'll have maybe the best quarterback tandem.
What do you do with Murray? I mean, how do you fit him into this offense? Do you just say, cut your losses, let him go? Is there something he can do here? He just seems like square peg, round hole. What is Murray's future in this offense?
The Eagles, if they are playing Chip Kelly football, they are going to run the football 600 times a year if everything goes well, and you need backs who can carry the ball a lot. You don't want to be rotating 4 and 5 guys in there if you can help it. I mean, the Patriots can get away with that, but they're about the only team. You really want to have a couple guys you can lean on. And Murray's durability has been a question mark at times in the past, but not of late. You don't say this guy can't handle 20 carries a game if you want to give it to him. So if he can still handle that type of workload, if you think that's where he is, I would still keep him in there because that has a lot of value. Especially look around the league, how many teams are struggling at running back right now because they don't have enough guys. So if you think you can if you think you can bring him back and you think he can fit into the salary cap and everything, yeah, definitely bring him back.
Casey, they're playing this Patriots team we just alluded to that are missing a lot of guys. It doesn't seem to bother them much, but did you start to see the cracks a little bit the other night that losing these guys is eventually going to catch up to them, or did catch up to them, or do you think they keep cranking out this week against Philadelphia?
The thing is, this is the type of matchup that New England couldn't have asked for a better matchup in the respect of that Philadelphia struggled against the run the past 2 weeks. They've given up more rushing yards before contact, and the second most rushing yards after contact in the league the past 2 weeks. So if you're in New England, you're going, wow, we're having trouble with our passing game. Look what's coming up. Our team that can't stop the run worth a darn. Hey, let's take we've got a quality running backs here. Let's go ahead and see if we can run this ball 40 times. I'll be surprised to see New England take a dink and dunk pass approach, but we'll also lean heavily on the run and see if Philadelphia can stop that. So from that perspective, New England's got to like their matchup.
Yeah, you look at what Philly the last couple of weeks on defense, Casey. This is a team that has been a pretty good defensive team for the first 9 games. The last 2, hideous. Where have the deficiencies started to show?
On run defense, it's not where the deficiencies. There's almost nothing they've done well. They don't fill their gaps well. They have good. They're not filling the gaps well. They're not tackling well. They're not pursuing well. They're not taking the right angles. I mean, you just basically pick any metric that you want or any element that you want, and they're not doing well there. But a lot of it has to do with effort too, and that's because that's a lot of what tackling is. So. The big thing about the Eagles is if they'll give a better effort on rush defense, if they'll do that, everything will improve dramatically in that area. But if they don't, again, I think New England could rush for 250 if the Philadelphia defense that played the last 2 weeks shows up.
Casey Joyner's with us, ESPN.com, NFL Insider, looking at this Eagles matchup with New England. If Philadelphia, let's talk about offense. If Philadelphia can do something on offense, where can they be effective this week? Because, we saw a little bit last week late in that game, as you mentioned. Denver started to run the ball a little bit there. So is there areas that Philly can get themselves right the ship, even against this New England team?
I'd love to see them be able to play pace football. They play pace football against the Patriots and say, okay, we're going to play this fast-paced offense, and we're going to have an improved run defense where you can't lean on the run. Where hey, you're going to go ahead and run it, but you're getting 3 yards, 4 yards of carry, and that's it. And New England, if that's the case, New England will start going back to the passing. If they don't see getting solid gains in the running game, if they're getting 1 and 2 yard rushes, they won't lean on that too long. They'll go right back to Brady. But if I'm Philadelphia, I want New England to pass the ball more. I want to see you throw to your 3rd and 4th and 5th wide receivers, or 5th, 6th, and 7th wide receivers, as it were, if you get enough of them out there, and see the mistakes that were happening late in that Denver game. I want to see if those things are going to happen again. So if I'm Philadelphia, I try and play pace football and try and make this high-scoring game.
Yeah, and then, obviously when you face Brady, and he doesn't have a lot of weapons right now, I mean, if you're Billy Davis, you just start going after him, make those receivers make plays?
I play physical against the receivers because, you don't have anybody who's really going to beat you over the top except LaFell. I'd make sure that I stop LaFell on the vertical passes, and everybody else I'm not worried about vertical at all, and just play them as tight as you can. And I'd be blitzing Brady, and I'd be trying to get some kind of pass rush pressure on Brady and say, fine, you want to go dink and dunk? Okay, we're going to take that away, and we're going to make you go vertical. And then because I have a feeling if you made Brady go vertical, if you start taking away dink and dunk stuff and made him throw deep, that there might be some pick opportunities there if the Eagles can play that game.
Philadelphia has really struggled in a lot of aspects here in this 3-game losing streak. But, the division's wide open. Did they have the talent they play New England, they've got Arizona, they've played Buffalo still, and they play Washington and the Giants. So they're going to have 2 division games to kind of keep themselves relevant if they can. Does this team have the makeup and the talent? They have 4 wins now, Casey. They're going to have to get to at least 7 or 8. Does this team have the talent to do that?
Talent-wise, I don't think this is a talent problem for the Eagles. I really don't. I mean, maybe at quarterback, they had a problem with Bradford. Now, Bradford's in for this way. Bradford stays healthy. Okay, can I see getting 3 wins here? Because I don't think they'll beat New England, and I really don't think they'd beat Arizona. But can I see them potentially beating Buffalo at home and Washington at home and the Giants on the road. I could see it happening. I'm not saying it will, but I could see it happening. So, there you get to 7, so you really got to either win the New England or the Arizona game to get to 8 and give yourself a real shot at the division. So I think we got to go 4-1 to win the division.
And I kind of agree with you there. We'll get into these other games in just a second with Washington playing Dallas and then New York playing the Jets. I don't know about you. I think 7-9 is going to win this division.
It's entirely possible. It is entirely possible. Except for to get there, then you've got to have Washington and the Giants win only 2 games, and they're guaranteed to win at least probably at least one between them. For just in facing each other and such. So I think if you get to 8, you definitely have a strong chance to win the division. I think 7 could win it, but I think if you get to 8, you're probably going to win it.
I agree. I just don't know. Washington right now at 5. They haven't won back-to-back games all season long. They're not very good on the road. 3 of their last 5 are on the road. So let's talk about Washington. They play Dallas. What are you starting to see about Washington? Where can fans or detractors start to feel more confident in Washington, or are you still skeptical about them?
Still skeptical on Cousins because Cousins, he people have complained about what Bradford's done, throwing occasional bad decision interceptions and such. Cousins does it all the time, or at least he, when he's off his game, he's as bad as Eli. So I mean their running game is better, and yet their run blocking has been pretty bad a lot of the times this year, and their pass defense has been better, and yet their pass defense has been abysmal this year. So I mean I could see them. You're looking at they've got Dallas, Chicago, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and then Dallas again. I could see the Cowboys taking one of those 2. I can actually see a split in one of those games, and you get Chicago, Buffalo, Philly. I mean, I could see, I could easily see Chicago beating them at home, and I could see Buffalo beating them, in Washington. So to say Washington's going to get to 8, I don't think it's a given that they get there. You might rather it be 7.
I said the same thing. I see Washington splitting with Dallas. I just don't see them sweeping Dallas. And you mentioned some of those other games in there. I don't see them getting 8. The Giants, they play the Jets this week. Let me first ask you about the Washington-Dallas game. I mean, Dallas is obviously decimated, but they've been, they fought and were competitive with Castle. He just was so bad in some of those games. But I thought when he came in for Romo last week, he played much better. Not that he's anything special, but what do you make of Dallas with Castle going into Washington this week?
If I'm Dallas, I'm trying to get, because I mentioned that Castle's was one of the worst vertical passers of the last 6 years. He even posted bad vertical numbers when he had Randy Moss in his prime. I mean, that's he's just not a guy who's going to get much done deep. Having said that, you've got Des Bryant, you've got Terrence Williams, who has posted great vertical numbers in the past. So if I'm Dallas, I want him to hit just 1 or 2 big passes against Washington. Just find a way to say, okay, I'm going to send both Williams and Bryant downfield. If you double one, I'm throwing to the other, and tell those receivers, you have to help this guy out. He's not just going to hit you.
It looks like we lost Casey there. He must have dropped off. We apologize for that. Sports Bash Live here on 97.3 ESPN at Chickies and Pete's. And I was kind of interested to see where he was finishing up with that sentence. And, the thing with Washington that I don't know in this last 5 weeks here is this is a team with Cousins that he's going to have to prove in December football that he can make some plays. 3 out of the 5 times on the road, I don't know that's what doesn't make me feel confident about Washington. And I think the team that wins the NFC East is the team that pulls off a big upset and beats somebody. And you would say, well, obviously, because I don't think it's a gimme that you're just going to beat the teams on your schedule in front of you that are the teams you're supposed to beat. I think you're going to have to take care of those teams, and you're going to have to upset somebody. So somebody is going to have to do something that you don't anticipate them doing. And I don't know that Washington – and one of the things I don't anticipate Washington doing is sweeping Dallas. They're division rivals, and I don't know that happens. All right, Casey, we lost you there for a second as you were kind of talking about, the ineptitude of Matt Castle and his inability to throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, he's terrible. If I'm Dallas, I've got 2 vertical threats in Bryant and Williams. Williams has been very good on vertical passes in the past. So if I'm telling them receivers, you're going to have to save him. He's going to throw up a contested ball, and you're going to have to go up there and get it. But as bad as Washington's secondary has been at times, absolutely they can do that. And if they can hit some big plays, now you can make Cousins start to have to take some of those chances. And I think that Dallas could, if they get Cousins to play the kind of game that he might have to play, if they can get it playing catch-up mode, they could get a couple picks and turn that thing around. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Washington have a struggle because it's just not a consistent quarterback.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the two New York teams. It's a very big game for both of them. The Jets are still alive in that AFC wildcard race. The Giants are obviously still alive in the NFC East race. So this is a very, very important game for both of them. I don't know. I can't get a read on the Jets. I mean, the Eagles went to New York and beat them, which I don't know what that says about them. That was a little earlier in the year. And the Giants, I mean, last week, how did they come out so flat? So this is a tough game to read.
It is, and if you're the Giants, you're thinking that they're not going to try and run the football at all because, they could, if they couldn't get anything done last week, they're certainly not going to get anything done this week against a very good Jets defense. So if I'm the Giants, it might be an all-pass offense, but, given how Eli plays at times, that might not be a good thing. So it's typical Tom Coughlin team. I mean, if they play as well as they're capable, if they hit on all their cylinders, man, they could beat just about anybody in the league. But, they've got times where they're just going to lay an egg. And have a feeling for this game, they probably don't lay an egg because I don't trust the Jets' coverage quite as much. But, it's very much a toss-up as to which New York offense shows up.
You would think the Giants of these two teams have the better offense and the Jets have the better defense. That's another reason why that makes it such an interesting game. They both are stronger on the opposite sides of the ball. For me, I look at this Giants team, and I can't figure out why look, they're not a very good football team. They're not very deep, but I can't figure out why they haven't been able to separate themselves from these, and especially last week against Washington, how they struggled so mightily in that game. And you wonder, what is the identity of that Giants team? That's where I think they really struggle. I don't know if they can't run the ball a lick.
They can't. And it's not only that they can't, they're getting beaten in individual matchups in the running game, and they're not being able to, because they're not being able to win one-on-one battles, they can't run the creative type of running game that they have in the past. Because it used to be the Giants that they're a team that has one of the most creative run-blocking fronts there is, and now you can't get away with that. If you can't beat guys straight up, you're not going to you're not going to be able to play to do those sorts of things because you're just trying to get your guys to do anything to win the battle, win a one-on-one battle. So. When you've got that kind of problem, because they've got talent in the backfield. I trust that they're talent in the backfield if they can give them good blocking, but they can't give them good blocking. So, and if you can't get good blocking in a Tom Coughlin offense, good run blocking, that your offense is dead because that's what he builds his offenses around.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, why you're looking for a reason to pick them in the East. And if they can't run the ball in December, I got a tough time thinking that they're going to win a bunch, enough games to get to where they need to go. I don't know which of these four teams runs the ball the best, but someone's going to have to walk out of here with that division crown, and I can't figure out who it is yet.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing for the NFL that the NFC East might give them the worst division winner in football, but you're right with the Giants. They've got two matchups against what I term red-rated run defense. Red-rated, the best rating there is. So you've got two matchups against red-rated run defenses the rest of the way. So that's two games where if you can't run the football, you're one-dimensional offense. So yeah, they might only get to 7 too. So I'm with you that 7 might be the magic number in the NFC East. That
was one of the reasons why when Romo was healthy and came back, I wasn't counting them completely out. Because I thought all they had to do was maybe get to 7-9 or 8-8. But with Romo out, I think it's really, really, really far-fetched for them now. But because the other three teams have so many different problems out there. All right, Casey Joyner, ESPN.com. He'll be back on Monday to recap what the Eagles and the Patriots. Now, they've given up 90 the last two games. Any shot they go on the road and win this game? Any shot?
And sure, because New England's got the issues that they have in the past. If they can play pace football, if they could get out to a lead and start playing the type of football that they can play, this is a game New England doesn't want to get into a shootout. It used to be earlier this year. They didn't mind because they knew they've got a high-powered offense that will beat you. New England does not want this game to turn into a shootout. If Philadelphia can get in that kind of game, absolutely, a 50-50 chance that that happens.
All right, Casey, always a pleasure, man. Enjoy the games this weekend. Recap on Monday.
Sounds great, man. Appreciate it.